This channel is made possible through the support of generous listeners just like you. If you would like to be a part of helping us bring our message of hope, peace, love, and spiritual truth to the world, please consider heading to experienceofthesoul.com/support, where you can join us as an ongoing patron or simply make a one-time gift. Blessings on the journey, dear friend.
CCU Orlando, Natural Awakenings Magazine, and Unity of Nashville present The Authentic Spiritual Journey, a weekly show featuring real and practical spiritual conversations from diverse perspectives here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Today, episode 72, See What's Really Happening. And now your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Cynthia Alice, and I am the host of The Authentic Spiritual Journey, and I'm here in 818 Studios with my producer.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dave Croft. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey.
We're always happy to be together and bringing you the show, and I want to do a shout out today to our veterans, because today is Veterans Day, and I can't tell you the importance that veterans have made in my life and in the life of our country. My dad was in the Army and the Navy, and I believe strongly in supporting those who fight for our country. I know many of the veterans actually that serve go into the military for a number of reasons. Often it's to pay for education or to, be of service in some way. And I've never met a soldier that wanted to go to war, but they do it out of duty and out of service and a desire to protect. So shout out. And I know you grew up kind of an Army brat, right?
Yeah, well, Marine brat. I don't know. Right. Marine. But my dad was a career Marine. I grew up on Camp Pendleton just outside of San Diego. So I have a real soft space in my heart for the Marine Corps and military. And it's how I know that, universal healthcare works.
Exactly.
Because growing up, if we got sick, we just went to the hospital. There was never a question about it. We just went, and it was great. And so, so that was. I had a really good experience growing up. It's funny, when I was a kid, I didn't understand, kind of how things worked, and so I thought that I had to become a Marine because my dad was a Marine.
Oh yes,
and I just thought he's a Marine. So, and I was like, man, I really want to be a musician, but I grew out of that. But wow, loved growing up on the Marine base. A lot of fond memories.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, my first ever memory, going back, was sitting in our living room, looking at our back door and looking across like a big ravine where they were doing helicopter training exercises. That's my first ever memory. Is this little helicopter and these little black dots kind of rappelling down the helicopter, down a rope or whatever. That's my very first memory.
Wow. Well, we have a lot of veterans too serving overseas that listen to the show, and I've heard from so many of you that the show really lifts you up and supports you, and so we bless you for the work you're doing. And I have several friends and even members of the ministry who go overseas and serve. I've had friends serving in Kuwait and Iraq, all over, and what I know that you're doing in addition to protecting our country is you're reaching out in kindness, you're reaching out in love, and so you're reaching really across that divide than what the news shows us. There's very different work that you're doing behind the scenes that we honor and we support, because so much of the work you're doing is actually humanitarian. So I just honor you for that. And I know the work is hard, and you've had to do things that you probably never imagined you would have to. So we love you, we support you, and we thank you for your service.
Yeah, and I want to, maybe not today, but I want to know the story of your father being in both the Army and the Navy.
Yeah, right.
That's really, that sounds like, I bet that's an interesting story.
Yeah, my dad was very interesting. Boy, yeah, that's a whole show in and of itself. Pops. Yeah. So, welcome to the show again. We're glad you're here, and it's a different title for me. So the title of today's show is, Dave, say it for everybody.
Is See What's Really Happening.
Right. See what's really happening. And I said it that particular way because I think we often think we know what's happening, but we're not seeing life from the highest level. So, what's been really happening for me is that I'm moving into a new consciousness and I'm being able to see more clearly. I know there's clarity above where I am, but I'm clearer than I was a year ago for sure. And I'm more clear, I should say, about my purpose, more clear about what I'm here to do. And I'm bringing on a new spiritual consciousness that has a lot of strength. It has a lot of hope, but there's also a removing of the blinders. My mentor, Mary Delaney, said to me, "You're moving into fifth dimension consciousness." I said, "Well, I teach about the fourth dimension, but tell me more about the fifth." Because years ago, I was studying some of that stuff, and it's just not something I've used. And the more she talked, I was like, that is, what's happening is fifth dimension consciousness. And so we desire, all of us, to be in the place of truth. We desire to see what's really happening and make, wise spiritual choices. Well, I think that what holds us back of seeing what's really happening is our lack of forgiveness, our lack of self-work, and once those things begin to happen, you can't help but move up in consciousness. So first, I feel like I want to just describe what the feeling is in me and how I'm working with this. So one thing is my denial is blown. If we were in church, I'd say with me, my denial is blown.
My denial is
blown.
blown.
Thank you, Dave.
You're
You know how I love to have people
congregation of one over here.
Yeah, yeah. My denial is blown. That means that the things that I used to deny happening, I now see clearly. That includes myself, places that I need to work on, places I need to look at. It includes behavior of others. When it's either with me, for me, to me, whatever, I'm able to see what's really happening. I'm able to sense it from an energetic level. I can read between the lines as people talk. I sometimes get almost a movie behind what somebody's saying. I get a mental picture of what's happening for that person. So, and I've been able to check these things out. I talk with friends and colleagues, and I'm really I'm moving out of denial in every way, shape, or form. Again, about the world, about myself, about what's happening, about what I need to be doing, about where I need to be putting my energy, all of these kind of things. And it is a little bit, in the beginning, when this starts happening, it's a little bit scary because it's like, oh my gosh, how did I not see that? Oh my goodness, I didn't know that was there. So questions come up, but my denial is blown. So the things that I used to not see, the things I was denying were there, I now know are there. And here's the good news, friends. Once I know it's there, healing can take place. I have a choice in the matter. If I'm denying it, then I'm lost in delusion. If I'm in denial, I'm lost in delusion. So we want to move up into a higher consciousness where we're not deluded, where we are not in delusion. So, yeah.
Yeah. Just let that sit.
Yeah. When your denial is blown, your idea of what is changes. So as long as I'm in denial and I'm delusional and I don't know what's really happening, then I'm living a false life, a false sense of self, a false sense of reality. And what's difficult about this teaching is only you can know where you are. So you're going to say, well, I mean, everybody would say this. Well, I think I know what's happening. Yeah, I did too. But we get glimpses, I think, as we move into a higher consciousness. We see what's really happening. So in other words, it's I keep going back to one of the shows we did, A View from the Mountaintop, because of the images that brought to us. I can't remember what show number that was, but I want to encourage you to go back and listen to that show. What happens when we are getting a higher spiritual perspective is that we see things in perspective. In other words, the things and the problems that seem so big, when we move into this higher consciousness, we see them for what they are. They are soul growth opportunities that we have to face and move through, or else we can't grow and evolve as souls. So this is what moving into the higher consciousness, the fifth dimension consciousness, is about. And the easiest way to say it is, to see what's really happening. So when we see what's really happening, our idea of what is changes, because we see our place in what's happening. We also see where our place is not. It's like, okay, I'm not supposed to be doing that, or I am supposed to be doing that. And so I think the process that we're all in, and we often say on the show that the whole show is about reawakening consciousness. So the process we are all in is waking up to the truth of who we are. And we do that in several ways. We do that through we wake up to who we are in the realm of work. We wake up to who we are in relationship. But ultimately, it starts with waking up to our relationship with the divine, by whatever name we call that. So as we wake up to the divine, then more clarity comes in all those other areas. And I think what a lot of us try to do is we work on this area, we work on that area, we work on that area, but it's the God connection that infuses all the other areas with the energy, the clarity, even to know what's ours to do. Is this making sense, Dave? What I'm saying?
Yeah. It's interesting. You mentioned, kind of, excuse me, realizing when it's time to move away from something, or and Shannon and I were actually playing worship. She was in the band and I was in the band at a church that was like an hour away. It was her folks' church, and we had just moved back to North Carolina back to the area, Greensboro, from school and all that, everything. Anyway, and so we were going to their church. It was about an hour away, and it was fine. It was great. We had a good time. We enjoyed the hour ride down on a Sunday morning, the hour ride back, and it was cool until it wasn't.
Exactly.
Like, it was
right.
almost like overnight. Suddenly, this thing which was life-giving became like life-draining. And we found ourselves kind of resenting having to go, and it's so far. And that's when we knew. And in the Assemblies of God, talk, that's called like the God's hand of provision had been lifted off.
I like that.
And suddenly, this wasn't our time to do this anymore. And we had been doing it a year and a half. So it wasn't just, a couple of weeks.
Right.
And it was really obvious that it was our time to stop that, because it was no longer giving us life. And it was just all of a sudden, a burden.
Right. And I think it's so interesting, that knowing what's ours to do, it doesn't mean that what we stop doing is bad. It just means it's time to stop doing it, And so I think in our culture, we always look for a reason. What happened? Blah, 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 blah. And the truth is, sometimes things are just complete. And so I think that's also part of seeing what's really happening is there is an energetic completeness in certain things. Sometimes relationships end. Sometimes relationships stay together. Sometimes jobs end. Sometimes jobs go on for 40 years. Neither is better than the other. Because everything has a life it's supposed to live in consciousness. And, our spiritual work around that becomes the wisdom to go through that. And I think I've mentioned to you that on the show that there's actually I have it on upside down today, the bracelet I wear that says wisdom. And I look at it and I wear it every single day. So it really reminds me to really stay, because wisdom to me is a God quality, not a human quality. A knowledge is a human quality, but wisdom is a God quality. So as I'm moving through, as I'm making decisions, as I'm seeking God's direction in my life, as I'm seeking next steps, I always want to remember, I want to keep that wisdom right at the forefront of my consciousness to make sure that the moves I'm making, the steps I'm taking, are from the highest consciousness possible.
Yeah, and it was it knowing what was after that. We found a church home in Greensboro where we were living, and that's when Shannon started leading worship. Right,
Perfect.
and that led to Memphis, and here we are today.
Right.
Today, we're talking today,
Right.
as a result of that, as a result of
Exactly.
us going, we need to release this because God's going to bring something else that we have no idea, and there's a 20-year domino effect.
Right, right. And what I believe for that ministry that you guys, stepped away from, what was so probably powerful about that is ultimately that's what the ministry needed too.
Yep.
Because you don't want people showing up for ministry who are not feeling really good about being
Right.
there. You want them to feel really good about being there, So I can just see that that's the divine order,
That's right.
of the whole situation. And so I think in our culture, because everything we see in the news is this and that, there's a lot of reactionary things, but it doesn't have to be that way. Sometimes it's just time to go, and we just honor
And
that.
it's okay. Nobody did anything wrong.
Right.
Nobody's in trouble. Nobody hates each other. There's no drama here. It's just time to move on.
Yeah, it's just time. And so the other place I really want to take this message today, we're kind of talking about in the realm of church and work, but it's very true in what you might be doing in your personal life. How are you spending your time? How are you? Where is your energy going? And again, when we tap into the presence of the divine, by whatever name we call it, we begin to use our intuition. We begin to use our intuition in making life decisions. And so as we learn to tap into that energy, we can more clearly see further down the path. And even if we can't see what's next, we trust what's next because the connection we have with spirit is so real and so strong. And I'm going to tell you just a brief section of a dream I had where I was in this place of question, and Spirit showed me, had me walk forward in the dream. It was like I was working with God in the dream. Spirit had me walk forward in the dream, and as I was walking, my steps were guided with this, like I was walking on liquid golden light. Right? So it was just, and when I woke up, the powerful feeling I had was that no matter what step I take, I'm totally supported. Even though I couldn't see what was next, but it was like every step I knew was guided and most importantly for me, supported. Yeah, there's some story I used to tell, and I don't tell it anymore because I just keep getting too supported, is that I wasn't supported, right? And so all of my issues that I was placing on family, on friends, on places, well, now it's me and God, right? And so in my walk, I know God, the universe, 100% supports me. The universe supports me 100% in every step that I take. And so in this, as I woke up, the phrase that came to me is, I can see what's really happening. And so that's why I'm bringing this today. I can see what's really happening. This is from an intuitive level. This is from the level of the soul. I'm trusting the message of Spirit is giving me. And I want that for you as well as our listeners. I know so many of you are working with your intuition on big life decisions. And when you're doing that for the first time, it can be scary. And I always like to say, please don't start with the biggest life decision ever if you're new to this. But learning to trust and learning to take that next step is a really important part of the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when we left that church, it was, like I said, it was her parents' church, and we kind of had to say, we're leaving. It's nothing personal, which is just the drive and everything. And so we had to be really mindful of that because it wasn't, as far as they were concerned, they were thrilled that their daughter and son-in-law were going to their church and playing on the worship team and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we worked through it.
Right. And I think the thing that again takes us through is the faith that if it's good for you, it's good for everyone.
That's right.
That's just how the universe works. And so, what I love about how the universe works is that it's a very intricate system. That if one person moves, everything starts to move, and actually, it was already moving before you even moved. The universe is so intelligent that before you even moved, things were already moving in place to support that ministry's next step. Things were already moving for you guys to move you into your next step. I 100% believe that's the way the universe operates.
So interesting. I'm in the middle of reading a fantasy novel. Bear with me.
Okay. I
Fantasy
know you're
novel
going to get to something.
called the Eye of the World. Right, it's by Robert Jordan, and it's really, really popular and famous. It's like 29 hours long. It's really epic. But in it,
You're listening?
Yeah, it's audiobook. Yeah. No, reading with my face. No, but in that book, again, it's fantasy. But in the book, they talk about time being kind of woven.
Yes.
And how there are certain people that that time weaves around. Now in the fantasy, in the book, it's like there's only a handful of people, and the whole kind of universe bends around those people. But as you're talking, it makes me feel like no, each of us are that.
Oh, we are that.
Each of us,
yes.
Kind of create a node in this quilted pattern or this woven tapestry. Each of us is a node around which the universe, wraps.
Yeah, absolutely true.
Was that too weird?
No, it's absolutely true. And ultimately, it's what I believe about the soul and the intricate connection that we all have to one another. And so the universe is always working on our behalf, with everyone. So I think in our second half, I want to talk a little bit more about how we do all live in our own reality, and then, in fact, what powerful co-creators we are when we are living life from this higher place. So thank you for being with us today. We'll talk to you more right after these messages.
We'll return to the program in just a few minutes, but first, we wanted to give a special word of thanks to our podcast partner, CCU Orlando, who has helped make this episode of the Authentic Spiritual Journey possible. CCU Orlando is a welcoming community dedicated to transforming lives, celebrating diversity, and supporting soul growth. CCU Orlando is located at 771 Holden Avenue in Orlando, Florida, with Sunday services at 9 and 11 a.m. You can stream services live online as well as learn more at christchurchunity.net. We'd also like to thank Natural Awakenings Magazine of Central Florida, Greater Orlando. Each month, Natural Awakenings magazines across the country take a practical look at the latest natural approaches to nutrition, fitness, creative expression, personal growth, and sustainable living. Natural Awakenings magazine is a free publication and is available in selected stores, health and education centers, healing centers, public libraries, and wherever free publications are located. You could learn more, including advertising opportunities for your business, by heading over to nacfl.com. And finally, we'd like to extend our special thanks to Unity of Nashville, a sister ministry of CCU Orlando. If you're searching for a like-minded church community and a personal connection that supports your heart and mind in the Central Tennessee area, then join Unity of Nashville at 10 a.m. every Sunday morning at 5125 Franklin Pike. For more information, head over to unityofnashville.org. And now we return you to this week's episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey with your host, Reverend Cynthia Alice Anderson.
Again, welcome back to the show. My name's Cynthia Alice, and we're always glad to have you with us. And you know what? I wanted to mention that the coffee sponsor for today's show, a new sponsor.
Yeah, we have a very special sponsor arrangement.
Yes, Lineage Coffee Roasting here in Orlando, Florida. And they do have a similar idea about a global connection. And not only do they roast their own coffees, but they use coffees from around the world and are very much about acknowledging the good in all humanity. So thank you, Lineage Coffee Roasting.
You must have talked to them because the coffee they sent over is fantastic and it's super bold. And I know,
I have to say,
they have variations of coffee, and some of them are a little too flowery for me. But this punched me in the face.
Yeah.
So
Black medicine.
and they sent so much of it. I think I'm on my third cup.
Oh, I know. There was even enough for our other, people
Yep.
in the studio, our live
Yep.
studio audience. So,
So we passed around the coffee and the pumpkin pie. I'm
yes.
just kidding. It
Well,
was
that
cookies.
kind of leads into our next half in a strange way because, we were talking a little bit at the end of our first half about people being in their own reality and the intricate connections of the universe. Well, if you've ever read, if you ever go onto YouTube and you are watching something and you see the comments underneath, you can see that people live in their own realities.
You wear a life vest if you're going to the YouTube comments.
Exactly. But I had a friend just posted something about, wow, people really are in their own realities. You can have people watch a song and have completely different, like diametrically opposed views.
I know. It's like here's a video of John Coltrane, and somebody is like bashing his tone or thumb down. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like grab a clue. Yeah. There was a song I saw by Nako Bear, one of my favorite artists, and I'm pretty sure we're going to get him on the show too a little later. But there was a song of his I really loved, and I was so surprised the comments underneath, and one was like, yeah, people don't understand dads, and another one was like, I just thought it was beautiful. I didn't have any negative response. And so when these are good examples then of the lens we're seeing through. And the consciousness I'm talking about is rising above that. And what's so amazing about our world is that we can live in alternate realities side by side. We can ride the bus together, the train together, be on a plane together. And two people sitting side by side on an airplane could have completely different realities. And I've seen it many times, and I've experienced it many times where I'm having a wonderful connection with the flight attendant I might be talking to, and the person next to me complains about everything. Well, is the flight attendant mean to one person and nice to another? Or are we seeing it through our own, lens? And so the consciousness I'm speaking about is even higher than that because it sees everything for what it is. And so even the person that's having their issue and their little reality, we go, oh, isn't that interesting what they're doing over there? So we don't have to defend them. We don't have to get mad at them. We just go, oh, that's their reality. And I see that for what it is. We can also see from a higher place that obviously was a survival mechanism in their lives. So there's probably a lot of hurt under that. There's probably a lot of pain under that. And in fact, right now, they might be using all of this way of being to manipulate to get what they want.
Right. Right.
And so the higher consciousness can see that. The lower consciousness says, I want to fight that, or don't do that, or that's wrong, And so there is a time certainly where we stand up for what's right, but you're not going to change where somebody is by opposing them. And so the higher consciousness I'm speaking of is you see things for what they are. So you not only see the behavior, you see what's behind the behavior, which also in turn gives you a greater compassion. So then your interaction then with all the other people around you is not based on what the person next to you is doing or what the person next to you is going to think about what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah. So part of this higher consciousness is being so clear with what's yours to do that no matter what anyone says, you're very clear. And it doesn't mean you march off headlong and leave people behind. It means you move forward with clarity and ease and poise and grace without having to explain yourself, without apologizing for why you're doing it. This is my next step. And this is what I'm got to do, and this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, looking past what somebody's doing into who they are and maybe why they're there. Man, that's tough.
It is.
Especially if what they're doing is offensive or offending you or wrong or whatever. That's...
Well, I mean, we're obviously seeing so much right now in the U.S. blowing up politically. And I remember when I was in Austria a couple of years ago, and I got in the car and said, I'm really sorry for, for our situation in the U.S. And they go, oh, it's the same in our country too.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, but I never thought it would be this bad in the U.S. I expect that other places or something, but really it's bad. It's bad. And so when you see so many things blowing up, people that are supposed to be leading our country getting arrested or in impeachment. And by the way, I thought the same for any Republicans out there that are going to say, well, what about Clinton? I felt the same thing when Clinton was impeached. I was totally embarrassed.
Yep.
And again, not really embarrassed now. What I see that for what it is.
Yeah.
This is how that kind of dark energy plays out. Somebody always gets caught in the end. Eventually, everything comes to light. Eventually. And so I see that for what it is. So thank goodness that I vote my conscience. Thank goodness that I know what's mine to do. Otherwise, I might get really sucked in to what's happening. And the truth is, at this point, I don't have a lot of say in what's happening. I've elected the people that have a lot of say. But day to day, what can I do? I can work my own life.
That's right.
So I see things for what they are. I can see what's happening. And so all of us, again, really want to acknowledge that we can see things for what they are, and everybody, as you're saying, Dave, is in fact in their own reality because of the lens they're seeing through. And in fact, there's a higher reality that can even see behind those behaviors. And that's what I'm talking about moving into, which really is a higher spiritual consciousness. That really leads me to the last major topic I want to talk about today, and it's the subtext of most of our shows and most of my teaching, which is that we are powerful co-creators. You are a powerful co-creator. So if nobody's told you yet today, happy Monday, you are a powerful co-creator. That's really important for you to take in and acknowledge, because as you do, you will realize from this higher awareness, everything that's happening is simply to get you to move forward. Everything that's happening is simply to get you to move forward. So when we start to move, the universe says, oh yes, we're going to show you why you have to move. Here's a reflection. And then you move forward. And then you move forward. So when you are a powerful co-creator, you use those situations not to bring you down, but to say, wow, Spirit is definitely working with me here. So I'm going to discern, again, I'm going to have that wisdom. I'm going to have that wisdom and see, okay, with all this happening, what's mine to do? I'm not a victim. I'm powerfully co-creating with the universe my next steps, whatever that may be, job, relationship, whatever, financial, whatever it is you're moving towards, having this awareness that you are co-creating your next steps. When I say co-creating, I mean you're creating and the universe is supporting you. No one can do it for you. But your intention, your drive, your will, your purpose, all move you forward on that journey. And then as you begin to move, then again, you're going to be walking on, as I saw in my dream, that beautiful liquid golden light of the universe that the universe is made of. And I believe that universe is made of love. So there is this tremendous support when you begin to step out and move and do what's yours to do. But if you are waiting, if you are holding back, guess what? The universe can only support you when you have a need for support. It's really amazing. So wherever you decide you are, the universe says, you're right. Wherever you decide you are, the universe says you're right. But if you say, universe, I don't know what's next, but I'm moving, the universe goes, okay, we can help this one now because she's surrendered enough, or he's surrendered enough, like the case of you and Shannon. You guys were surrendered enough so that God could move you where was needed. But first you have to let go.
That's right.
First you have to let go. And so I should say being a powerful co-creator and surrender are really closely related, because I think so often on the spiritual journey and so often with self-help people, it's like, just do these 5 things and life will be perfect. Well, yeah. There's an aspect to all of the moving forward when you're really seeking to do and live from your highest purpose, from the highest consciousness possible, surrender is a part of the gig. And so, yes, you move forward, but surrender is an aspect of that. You can't completely choose every next step when you're surrendered. But what happens is your intention is there, you're holding your intention, and so you begin to manifest in a new way. In other words, okay, I said this in class recently, and I want to say it again. Some manifestation you're creating, you're making happen, you're making steps, you're doing things. That's one level. The higher level, I believe, of manifestation is trust, where you can't do anything. And so the wisdom becomes, where are you now? And so if you've never done a lot of powerful co-creating on your own, in other words, if you've never made it happen by setting intentions, by doing vision boards, by moving forward, by getting psychological or spiritual counseling, by doing things like breath work or soul collage or, powerful modalities like that. If you are doing things like that and you're powerfully co-creating your life, and you're being asked to move again, there may be a new kind of manifesting for you to do. And what I've learned is that this new type of manifesting, if I do too much, I'm actually getting in the way. I'm creating resistance rather than flow. And so that's probably a whole show, a new kind of manifesting. Yeah, I want to talk about that. A new kind of manifesting, because it's I've been working with it the last couple of months, and it's a new idea in terms it's a deeper teaching. Even though there's always trust involved in co-creating, there's a deeper level of trust that goes beyond do this, do that, do that. Okay, Spirit, show up for me. There's just a trust, right? Manifestation through trust, and that's a really big step. That's a really big step because trust is always implied, in any steps that we're talking about, but there's a huge amount of surrender in manifesting by trust.
Right, like when Shannon left Full Sail, she trusted that everything was going to be okay. Bills are going to get covered, no problem. We're not going to have to sell the house or anything tragic like that. She just trusted it was going to happen, and it did.
Right, and so in your life, I want to really. It sounds like I'm ending this, but I want to revisit a couple of the points we talked about because I really want us all to be reawakened to the truth of who we are and to move into this higher consciousness because I see that the world needs it so badly. Everybody is so stuck in who's right that we're missing the larger point. We're missing the soul growth and evolution that's happening, within us. I said I wanted to look at my note because I wanted to use the exact word. I said at the very beginning, my denial is blown. And when that happens, what we think changes or our idea of what is changes. But what I want you to hear me say is denial being blown is a good thing. It also requires an incredible emotional intelligence to be able to kind of rip the blinders of denial off and feel what has to be felt to be in reality. What I've noticed, the grief is bigger, but so is the joy. Yeah. I feel loss, but I also feel a manifestation in a way I never have before. So the new consciousness is more present, more aware, but it does shift how you see the world. So I think to just, the reason I wanted to do the show about this topic is so you could begin to kind of look at your life and go, well, is this happening for me? Because I think what I've learned is that as I start to move, everybody's moving. And there's a new direction that's happening. There's a new consciousness coming forward. And actually, I see it a lot in some of the millennials. And I even hate to group people, but like in the 20-somethings.
Sure, yeah.
They're really awake to what is, and they really want to make a difference, and they are real clear about what's theirs to do and what's not, like as a whole. And then I think individuals are finding their way. Some are really moving forward in that, and some are, still finding their way. But I think generationally, the younger ones coming in, this is happening. And I think for the older folks, now I'm one of the older folks, we're having to work to get there, because I didn't come into that consciousness the way they're coming in. I think it's important for you to remember that the universe supports you 100%. So if you wanted an affirmation for today, it would be, the universe supports me 100%. The universe supports me 100%. Yeah. The universe supports you 100%. And then finally, realizing that their reality is up to you, in a sense, that wherever you are and however you're seeing and experiencing things is coming through your lens. So the desire then is to rise above what's as I call the fray, people in the fray, everybody mad at somebody else, and rising above that and saying, okay, what's really happening? And then tune into God as our ultimate reality. Then we can see things on this third dimensional realm for what they really are. The third dimensional realm. We can see behaviors. We can see failures. We can see successes. We can see disappointments. And we can see the soul journey out before us and not be afraid, because we know that we are connected to spirit. The universe is supporting us 100%. And in fact, as we move into powerful co-creation, there is a huge surrendering piece. Again, so I want to encourage you on the journey to just really be mindful of the steps you're making, really be mindful of the thoughts you're holding, being mindful of what spirit is trying to move you towards. And as you do that, to just trust. It's like, see yourself supported with this liquid golden light, the universe that is made of love itself, and know that that is what is ultimately guiding you and supporting you. So be careful, friends, about letting the news of the day bring you down, because this is not who you are, and there's very little you can do to shift that in the immediate. And so what you can do, though, is by connecting in with this higher consciousness, then the world begins to change all around you, because you're living from the highest place possible. So this is what I want to encourage you to do, to be able to see what's really happening, to choose well, and then finally to connect in with the Spirit of God that you are and live life from the highest place. So I hope, too, that you'll talk about this with some friends. See if other people are going through things like this, and you might be surprised as you talk to people that there is a movement of energy that's coming in. This movement of energy, again, is coming in and through, and the people that are really doing the spiritual work right now are opening up, are moving, are shifting, are changing at a very fast rate. So I want to encourage you, if you're doing that work, to know you're not alone in this. As you're seeing things for what they really are, and you're feeling things really deeply, remember, if you're feeling the negative deeply, that you're preparing yourself to feel the positive more deeply as well. So we really want to encourage you on the journey. We also, as always, want to thank you for listening. You have really supported us in incredible ways. Some of you being financial givers, others volunteering to help with things on the show. So we thank you for sharing our message and for sharing the podcast with your friends and loved ones, so that more of us can wake up to the truth of who we are. We are about reawakening consciousness to love, acceptance, and peace. So thank you for joining us, dear friend.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Authentic Spiritual Journey, presented by CCU Orlando, Natural Awakenings Magazine, and Unity of Nashville. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is also made possible through the continued support of our angel patrons, Dove Borland, Peter Gibson, Paul Caswell, J.J. Hamilton, Arlene Meyer, Kathy and Terry, Marcia Mott, Nora Miles, Diana Cox, Leslie Williams, Susanna Garcia, and Shayla Mount. The Authentic Spiritual Journey is copyright 2019, Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission from RR Hot Publishing. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.